I can hear you.
Okay, I'm on the line. Do you need something?
No.
All right.
All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for staying with us. My name is Dr. David, and welcome to tonight's webinar. This is going to be a very special webinar because this deals with the start of life as opposed to mid-age, the later years, which really, to be quite frank with you, that has been our focus most of the time we've been doing webinars. But the start of life really, believe it or not, sets you up for how the quality of your life in your latter years. Believe it or not, the nutrition and the health status of the mother can determine how healthy the child would be in his or her 60s and 70s, believe it or not. So there is a lot to be said for starting kids off early. And I tell you, having someone like Vicki, who has not only the passion, but also the professional expertise and the experience. And she did this presentation on intentional sexuality a couple of weeks ago. But having someone who has a passion, the experience, the expertise, and has really seen the results, what she's going to be talking about. She's going to be talking about having toxin-clear pregnancies, but she has seen the results in her own personal life and in that of her family. So we just have the complete package here. I'm going to read her bio, but while I'm transferring to her, I'm going to read her bio while I'm transferring to her. So Vicki, just go ahead and accept that, and I'm going to just move things around a little bit and get up your bio. Okay. Vicki Latham graduated in 1992 from Oklahoma University Health Science Center in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. As a board-certified physician assistant, she has worked at several health centers and women's clinics, including a 10-year tenure serving as the women's health practitioner at the Oklahoma State University Health Center, where she gained valuable experience attending to the unique medical needs and challenges of college students. She currently works with Associates of Medicine, which is headed by Dr. John Williams. In addition to her medical pursuits, she is a teacher of dance and exercise and was a professional ballet dancer in New York City many, many years ago. She is a teacher at heart, I can testify to that, and loves to educate people on how to make good choices that will move them step by step closer to a healthier lifestyle and a longer and more prosperous life. She also works with the Wyora International Corporation, educating people all over the world on the benefits of detoxification and nutritional supplementation. Her focus is on pregnant and breastfeeding mothers, helping the next generation of children to become healthier and more toxin-free than their parents. She is married to David Latham, a building contractor, and has 4 children, a stepdaughter, and 5 amazing grandchildren. Her exercise of choice is ballet, and she also loves to work in the garden and kayak. Her retirement goal is to continue to do international medical mission work. And so we have it. Here we have a unique person and a unique presenter. And Vicki, thank you so much for putting this presentation together. I've seen clips of it. We've talked about it. And I just want to say, without much further ado, I'm handing it over to you.
Thank you, Dr. David. It's my joy and pleasure to be here, and I hope that people will really get a lot out of this presentation. Even if you're just a mom or a grandma and not pregnant yourself, I think you're going to find a lot of really valuable information in what I'm going to share today. I'm going to start with something that we've all seen many, many times. Driving down the road, we've passed the FedEx truck. But a lot of times there's things around us that are in our environment that we see so commonly that we actually don't really see. And so if you will look here in this FedEx sign, I don't know if you'll notice, but there is actually an arrow. I don't know if you can see the arrow, but see if you can find it, because here it is. I think it's here. Here. There it is. So from now on, every time you see this sign, you're going to have a completely different perception about FedEx. Now I'm going to show you another image. And I want this image to be something that always changes your way of thinking about the earth. And that is that, unfortunately, we now live in a very toxic world. There's a global concern, and Americans, the CDC, every few years analyzes how many toxins they find on an average in Americans. And in December of 2009, their last study showed that we now carry an average of 212 industrial toxic chemicals in our bodies. This is up from 27 in 2001. And this is a global concern. In Asia, birth defects are up by as much as 40% and even higher for those who live around coal-fired power plants. It's in the air we breathe, whereas 10% of women carrying mercury concentrations high enough for fetal damage. It's in the water, with chemicals in our drinking water linked to numerous studies that show an increased risk of breast cancer and other issues as well. So it's in the food we eat as well, with advisory limits in many, many states. Oklahoma has one of the worst levels of mercury contamination. I was working with a woman at OSU at one point, and she was doing her doctoral study on the effects of birth control pills in fish that were around college campuses. So she was going to many, many streams and rivers around college campuses in various cities and analyzing the fish. And one of the things that they found was that while the fish themselves seemed to be fine and they were able to produce offspring, their offspring had abnormal reproductive organs, and fertility issues were going to be a major issue in this next generation of fish because of the high levels of estrogen that comes because of the high concentration of women taking birth control pills. So, and that's just one contaminant. But when they've tested the fruits and vegetables that's served in our schools, they found 84% of them have chlorinated pesticides on them. And also in our homes, they call it off-gassing, where things such as the carpet and some people love that, quote, new car smell when they get a new car, but that's actually toxins that are being released. It's industrial chemicals that have been put inside the car, and those things actually are toxic for you to inhale. Now, we have many sources of heavy metal poisoning, and lead, these are the places that are the most common sources of lead, the common sources of mercury, cadmium, and arsenic. Arsenic's particularly scary because any deck that was built before 2003 was made out of wood that was preserved with a compound containing a high amount of arsenic. As you can see, just a tablespoon of the ash from this is enough to kill a human. And so when you think about your animals playing with toys, rolling them around and slobbering on your deck, they could be picking up preservatives. When you think of sitting on a picnic table and eating your lunch and your children are licking their spilled popsicle off of the deck. I know I've seen mine do that. They actually could be contaminating themselves with some of these toxins. So I hope that this has convinced you that if you're breathing, eating, or drinking, that you're picking up all kinds of toxins. So how much toxicity can we handle? Well, our body burden is that amount of toxins that's present in our body that exceeds the amount that we can detoxify through normal body mechanisms. Mechanisms like our liver and our kidneys and our bowels, and our skin is our largest detoxification organ. Even our breath is a detoxification organ. The next time you are working at the gas pump and you spill some gasoline on your hand, hold your breath for about 6 or 7 seconds and you'll actually taste the gasoline in your mouth, because it is a volatile organic compound that your body is going to breathe out. And when you hold it in, you're going to taste it. All of these conditions have been definitely linked to a toxic body burden. And whenever your body has more toxins than it can handle, and more toxins than it can excrete through these normal mechanisms in the liver and the kidneys, then your body is going to store that in the most inert tissue that it possibly can, such as in bone and in fat cells, on receptor sites, in tissues and joints, leading to just so many chronic health issues. And now we're going to talk about our topic today, which is detoxification and pregnant women. Because even before we're born, our bodies are exposed to these toxins. There was a study in 2005 by the Environmental Working Group, and there the mother, wherever the mother's exposed to, apparently the fetus is at risk of. There was an average of 200 different industrial chemicals, pollutants, and pesticides that was found in the umbilical cord blood of these newborns. There was also a study done in New York of the pollution there, and found that women had higher chromosomal abnormalities of the infants that were born there due to the carbon monoxide and other toxins that they inhale there. Now, I'm pretty conservative when it comes to what I want my children to take. And when I was a practicing midwife, and in the last 20 years as I've worked as an OBGYN PA, I'm very strict, you might say, or I really advise people to be extremely careful about what products that they put into their body in pregnancy. And when my daughters were pregnant, I wanted them to be able to detoxify so that their children would be born without any of these kinds of toxins. And so this is my own daughter, Dana, and this is my grandson, McCrae. He was a natural cellular defense baby, and his mom detoxified both before and after pregnancy. This is my other daughter, Kyra, and her little girl, Reese. She detoxified both before and during pregnancy with Reese, and then with little Mia, who she's pointing to in the picture. Now, my grandson, Sam, who's in this picture, who is older, was 2 years old at the time that the detoxification method that I'm going to talk about today, that is completely safe for pregnancy, at the time that he was born, the product was not available. So at 2 years old, he was able to get on the product with absolutely remarkable results in reversing his asthma and allergy issues. Now, getting back to some of our toxins, there's natural disasters that are also a major source of toxins. Hurricane Katrina spilled a lot of oil into the Gulf of Mexico and caused a lot of pollution there. But volcanoes are actually one of the highest sources of mercury contamination. Then we have our man-made disasters like the Gulf oil spill. The Department of Interior statistics show that when the spill was active, there were 19,000 barrels of oil a day going into the Gulf. And they estimate that the final was 183 million barrels of oil that was spilled during the time that the oil well was leaking. So you compare that to the damage that we already are aware of that happened with only 68,000 barrels. We just have no idea what 183 million barrels is going to do. Also, you might be aware of the toy recall that happened with the 12 million Shrek glasses recalled due to excessive levels of cadmium. Back when lead was banned from paints, they didn't just dump all that lead paint. It actually was shipped to other countries that didn't have as high of environmental standards, and a lot of it ended up in China, where they shipped it back on to us in toys. You probably remember the Fisher-Price recall last year of all the toys that were painted with lead. So now we have, they're watching for lead, so now they're using cadmium. And cadmium is a highly toxic, very carcinogenic metal. And so when it was discovered it was on these glasses, McDonald's had to make a recall of this glassware. So the harsh reality is that there are so many toxins and so little time, and everyone who's eating, breathing, or drinking, everyone who's aging, and everyone who is just brand new, newly conceived, all have a concern about what to do about all the toxins. And there has been shown a compelling association with prenatal exposure and neurotoxic effects in children. So now is the right timing for us to think about making some changes. And the good news is that we human beings are very adaptable and we are very capable of change. But change, the people who do the research on change shows that change can only happen when we become aware of something, that we begin to believe that change is possible, that we develop a vision for how we can change, that we believe that this change will be beneficial, and that the sacrifices it may take to change will be worth it and bring about a better future. And we all care about a better future for our children and grandchildren. People believe that they're able to do it and that they can find a way to do it that will be convenient, so that it's something they can actually do. I've been going around for about a year now doing a presentation that I call 5 Keys to Vital Health. And this is kind of a jumping off place for people who are wanting to improve their health. And these 5 things are things that I believe are absolutely critical. I'm going to do an emphasis on detoxification today, but I want to mention a few of these things and how they affect pregnant women and stress. Number one is that whenever we're stressed, whenever we have fight or flight mechanisms happening in the body, it produces the release of something called cortisol. This is made from our adrenal glands, but it's very toxic in high levels to our immune system. It suppresses our thyroid, it imbalances our blood sugar, it has an effect on our formation of our bone density, it affects blood pressure, increases abdominal fat, and affects negatively our cholesterol. All these things are critical in a pregnant woman because her immune system is already mildly depressed because the body doesn't want to reject the new fetus as something foreign. So the body's immune system is slightly suppressed anyway. The thyroid levels increase during pregnancy, and some women end up with hyperthyroid or hypothyroidism after their pregnancy. But a thyroid that's not functioning right will be incompatible to the maintenance of a pregnancy. Blood sugar imbalances, of course, are very important for gestational diabetes. The baby is growing healthy bones, hopefully, so you don't want to have a lot of circulating cortisol interfering with the mineralization of the bones in your fetus. Blood pressure is very critical because if you have hypertension, as the placenta is providing oxygen and nutrients to the baby, it's important that the blood rush by the placenta with exactly the right amount of blood pressure. If it doesn't do it, then you're not going to perfuse the placenta correctly, and the baby is not going to get the oxygen and the nutrition that it needs for optimal growth. Also, toxins can come in a form that we call relationships. And this is a little diversion, but I think it's important. And I remember back when I was delivering babies, I heard that in India, they believe that it is so disruptive to a woman who is pregnant to become upset. You actually can be fined there for upsetting a pregnant woman, because they want her to be mellow, because they believe, and I think this is true, that mellow women in pregnancy produce mellow babies. And happy women in pregnancy are more likely to produce happy babies. So when you think of a woman who becomes extremely stressed out and all of those stress chemicals begin roaming through her body, they pass through the placenta and into the baby. There's this happy little baby in there just floating around having a good time, and then all of a sudden is wondering, why am I feeling very stressed? And sometimes people will say, I don't know what happened. I had a really stressful day, and all night the baby kept me up, kicking away. Well, all of those stress chemicals that you activated are now affecting the baby, and you've gotten into the baby, and now it's made the baby very, very active. So this is what, there's a wonderful man, the late Jim Rohn, and he is a motivational speaker, and he gave this story. It's called The Coffee Story, but since we really don't recommend that you drink much coffee in pregnancy, I'm going to change this to this tea story, because it could be tea or coffee. And how the story goes is this: if your worst enemy puts arsenic in your tea and you drink it, what would happen to you? Wouldn't be alive long, right? What if your best friend puts arsenic in your tea? What would happen to you? You'd still be dead. And the moral of the story is that you're not going to be able to change people. And sometimes the people who provide the biggest toxins in your life are the people who are closest to you. And only you can watch your tea. Only you can decide that when someone pours toxins into your life, only you can decide whether you're going to drink it or not, and whether you're going to ingest it, and whether or not you are going to internalize this and let it stress you out. So reducing stress in pregnancy, I believe, is a critical form of detoxification. Also, exercising. We have 4 times more lymph fluid in our body than we have blood. We all know about the cardiovascular benefits of exercise to our heart and the exercising of our heart muscle, which pumps our blood. But what pumps our lymph fluid? Only exercise. And it greatly increases the elimination of toxins. So you need to find something you love to do every day. You love to do and do it every day. Now in pregnancy, it's important that you also, in addition to having good blood pressure, that you keep your heart rate when you're exercising under about 160, because you want to ensure that placental circulation is functioning well. And when the heart is beating too quickly, then you may also not perfuse the placenta quite as well. Next is diet, and of course an ideal pregnant diet would be a balanced choice of carbohydrates that are complex, high in fiber, lean protein, healthy fats, and as much fiber in your diet as you can get. Constipation is a major issue for most women in pregnancy, and maintaining a really high fiber diet is really important. You want to eat these foods in as close to its live and natural state as possible. And remember, it's not the food in your life that matters, but the life that's in your food. So eat something that's maybe been alive fairly recently. Buy real food without chemical additives. And this has always been my #1 health rule for eating. If nature made it, eat it. If man made it, you better be careful. Nature made the orange, man made the orange soda pop, the orange candy, and the orange for all kinds of artificial flavorings. So don't eat the artificial stuff that man made. Eat the things that nature made. Just eat oranges. And go and purchase that food from a place as close to home as possible. Go to farmers markets, friends who have farms, or even grow it yourself. Many communities, we have one in Stillwater, we have cooperative sustainable agriculture where you join with a farmer and you help pay money for him to grow the garden, and then you get a share of what he grows. These are wonderful ways to get healthy food, and buy organic whenever possible. Now, I know organic sometimes can cost more, but it's also sometimes pay now or pay later. But if you go to the Environmental Working Group website that's listed here, you can find a list of the most important foods for you to purchase organically. The Environmental Working Group are the same people who did the study on the umbilical cord blood of newborns that showed the over 200 toxins. So it's a fabulous website that has lots of great information. In fact, they have a whole site just for pregnant women and for families with children as to how to eat the healthiest and the most economical, as well as avoid all kinds of toxins. Now, another thing is that fat is a major store of toxins. It's even been shown that toxins that are sequestered in fat, that fat cell will maintain a chemical messenger around it that says, "Take me last." Your body doesn't like to break down fat cells that are containing toxins. But obviously in times of stress it will. And that's why having an optimal diet in pregnancy is important, so your body won't be breaking down too many fat cells, that your body will be getting the nutrition that it needs without breaking down these toxins that are then going to enter the bloodstream, travel across the placenta, and enter your baby, causing potential neurotoxicity. There's been a real trend of obesity in the United States. Back in 1990, there was not any state that had more than 10% of people not just overweight, but obese with a body mass index over 30. Now, there's only one state that has less than 15%. So there's a major problem with overweight, and overweight contributes to issues of infertility and complications in pregnancy. Now, avoiding insulin resistance is really critical because high levels of sugar are extremely toxic to your baby. So you want to avoid this kind of toxicity. And by doing that, you want to avoid having insulin resistance. As your cells become resistant to insulin, your pancreas has to work harder to overcome that by kicking out more and more insulin. In the long run, this can eventually lead to diabetes. But in the short term, for you as a pregnant woman, this can raise your blood sugar levels. And these are things that also can increase insulin resistance. I even think it's one of the major reasons that we have such a problem with obesity in our country is because of the high rates of chemical additives and things that increase our body's insulin resistance. Also, I want to mention nitrosamines because they are very toxic to pregnant women, and many women, especially ones who are low income, will eat a lot of things like bologna and hot dogs during their pregnancies, but these contain a lot of sodium nitrates, which can turn to nitrosamines. And nitrosamines in pregnancy have actually been shown that women who eat them on a regular basis increase their risk of having a baby born with type 1 diabetes. So these are things that you do want to avoid in pregnancy, these kinds of processed meats. These are carbohydrates that support normal blood sugar, and they're going to help to keep your body toxin clear. And I think those are all pretty self-explanatory. If you are going to use an artificial sweetener, stevia is your choice. Stevia helps to feed the pancreas and is an herb that is naturally sweet, does not cause insulin resistance, and is healthy to use in pregnancy. All kinds of nutritional supplements are on the market. You are going to be looking at taking a prenatal vitamin. The American Medical Association and American College of Obstetrics and Gynecology recommend that women take vitamin and mineral supplements. I personally think that food-based products that are where the nutrition in that supplement come from food is better than a synthetic chemically made vitamin, which may or may not be properly absorbed in the body. And you can find these kinds of vitamins even in prenatal formulations. But the real critical nutrients that you need to be aware of in pregnancy are B vitamins, folic acid, and you want that folic acid on board 2 to 3 months before you conceive, because what the folic acid is doing is helping to protect you from neural tube defects, which are things like spinal bifida. And those are formed very early in pregnancy. That folic acid is needed really before you've missed your first period and probably before you've gone and had a pregnancy test. So the folic acid needs to be on board in advance of your pregnancy, if at all possible. But when you do find out you're pregnant, you want to make sure that you get on folic acid as quickly as possible. Vitamin D is absolutely critical for brain growth, bone growth, neurological development in your baby. So this is very important. Calcium and magnesium, of course. And omega fatty acids are very important for brain development. And fish, there have been many studies that have shown that women who eat a lot of fish in pregnancy have children with higher IQs. So here's the dilemma. We know that our fish supply has mercury, but you're supposed to eat fish. So now what do you do? Well, that's what we're going to talk about when we talk about detoxification next. Also, I want to mention chia seeds. My favorite one is in a product called Mila. And chia seeds are one of the highest non-animal source of omega-3 fatty acids. It's an excellent product. So we're going to get now to detoxification. So we all want to go green on the inside, especially when we're growing a baby. Now I want to educate you just a little bit about heavy metals and what they do in our body. We've already established that there are so many sources that are really unavoidable for us to get heavy metals and other industrial toxins in our body. I want you to be aware of some of the things it does. Lead, for example, displaces calcium. Cadmium and arsenic displaces zinc, and mercury displaces magnesium. Now, why that's important is that because we have lead, I was reading a statistic at the CDC site today when I was just going to review a few statistics, and 94% of us have lead in our bones, so and teeth. So virtually everyone has lead, and the reason that lead gets stored in our bones and teeth is because those are major places where calcium is stored, and lead displaces calcium. So here's a scenario. You have a woman who's pregnant, and one day she doesn't get enough calcium to meet the needs of her growing fetus that day. So the body goes and breaks down some calcium from her bones. Well, when it breaks down the calcium, it also breaks down some lead. The lead passes into her bloodstream, passes through the placenta, travels into the baby, and becomes neurotoxic. And this is something that's happening as we speak to pregnant women everywhere. So, yes, of course, you want to get adequate calcium so that your body isn't having to go break it down out of your bones. But that just may not be something that's possible. So, again, what are we going to do about trying to detoxify in pregnancy? Protein, there can be changes in zinc finger proteins due to heavy metals. Zinc is absolutely critical for our body to regenerate a cell. Zinc is also very important in fertility, especially in men. And because arsenic and cadmium displace zinc finger proteins so that they don't work properly in our bodies, healing is going to be delayed in anyone who has mercury and cadmium displacing zinc. What comes to mind right away for me is smokers, because cadmium is one of the most toxic heavy metals that's in cigarette smoke. Most people don't realize this, but every breath that you take of a cigarette, every puff, has up to 4,600 toxic chemicals that you're inhaling into your body. And these things are going to come and be stored and sequestered in your fat cells, in your bones, and on receptor sites, such as the receptors in your zinc finger proteins, delaying healing and affecting the regeneration of cells. So you can see how critical the removal of these heavy metals can be in helping to grow a healthy baby. So now I'm going to talk about some detoxification methods. I've broken these down into two forms. One is called active detoxification, and one is passive detoxification. Active is ways that aid the body in doing what it already does. Already, like I spoke about earlier, about your liver and your kidneys and your skin and even your breath, helping you to detoxify. And it aids the body in doing this, and it makes it do it much more effectively. Passive detoxification actually removes the toxins for you, and you don't have to do anything at all to get this out. The active methods are things like massage and lymphatic drainage, which moves the lymph tissue, which is the garbage dump of the body, and moves this lymph through the body, getting these toxins and then releasing these toxins out of skin, muscles, and tissue. Using essential oils can enhance the release of toxins. Sweating, such as in saunas and sweat lodges, and infrared saunas can mobilize toxins in fat and force the sweat glands to sweat out the toxins. Purging methods such as colon cleanses and laxatives and colonics and using pre and probiotics, balancing our healthy bacteria in our colon, those can be very good for detoxifying the body. Acupuncture and acupressure are particularly good in helping people who are withdrawing from addictions. Algae, such as chlorella and spirulina, combine with heavy metals and form compounds that can be more easily eliminated from the body. Herbal detoxification is targeted with many different types of herbal products to stimulate specific organs to detoxify through the liver, kidneys, and blood. There are also specific nutrients such as glutathione, enzymes, and antioxidants that aid the body in detoxification. Just not being dehydrated. Pure water with a normal pH of 7 or above is best to help detoxify the body. And then there are various kinds of diets like raw and live food diets and organic food diets that are so much more pure that they actually can help to detoxify. And fasting of various types can also be done. All these actives are these active methods are beneficial and can aid the body in detoxifying better before you become pregnant. But once you're pregnant, you really don't want to be pulling toxins out of your bones. You don't want them being pulled out of your fat cells. You don't want them during pregnancy to get into the bloodstream where it can pass and get into your baby. So while there are a few of these methods that still can be beneficial, and I want to mention those, massage can be helpful in pregnancy, but using sweating would absolutely be not something you want to do. Colon cleanses and laxatives are probably not something you want to do. Acupuncture would be fine. The algae possibly could be fine because sometimes the compounds that are formed can be eliminated fairly easily, but still I think that would be something I would really want to caution you about. Herbal detoxification I wouldn't recommend in pregnancy, and some of these other things, the enzymes and antioxidants are probably fine. And of course, eating raw, live, healthy foods, we've got to eat something, so we definitely want to put in foods that are going to help us to be healthy and not add more toxins to our body. But fasting is also definitely something you don't want to do in pregnancy. But all of these methods before pregnancy to detoxify are excellent. Now, passive detoxification would be one way through medical chelation therapy, and these are pharmaceutical agents that are the standard medical treatment, and they would definitely be contraindicated during pregnancy because they're going to release these heavy metals into the bloodstream where they have to be eliminated through the kidneys and the liver, and they would have a possibility of getting into the baby. So these are definitely not something that you want to use in pregnancy. But these are some safe, passively ways to detoxify. And this is the kind of something where I'm hoping the light will come on for you and you will see how amazing this would be to safely and passively detoxify during your pregnancy, and that is to use zeolites. These are negatively charged minerals that are formed where volcanic ash meets seawater. They form these negatively charged minerals with a powerful negative charge. And they have very unique properties. Now there's over 40 different types of zeolites. The one that I recommend is called clinoptilolite, and it tracks and captures positively charged heavy metals and other toxins. It's been evaluated through numerous studies and looked at by the FDA, and it's been granted GRAS status, generally recognized as safe. Therefore, it can be used by all people of all ages including and even recommended to pregnant women. Zeolites have cage-like structures with a three-dimensional framework that actually traps environmental pollutants, heavy metals, even allergens and viral particles when they're in their replication cycle. This is the product that I recommend for you to use. This is the best zeolite. It was the original zeolite. There have been some copycats that have attempted to duplicate this, but because this product is both patented and proprietary, it cannot be duplicated. And so this is the product that I recommend for pregnancy, and the only product that I recommend. And here's why. Well, I'll get to that in a minute. Because natural cellular defense micronizes its product so that it can get into the bloodstream. So you have a scenario where you have a woman who's eating fish. If the natural cellular defense product is circulating in her bloodstream, these little zeolite cages are going to attract and trap the mercury from the fish that she's eating. It's going to be sucked into the zeolite cage, and then the next time she goes to the bathroom, it's gone. And so the mercury is never going to have the opportunity to cross into the bloodstream, to cross the placental barrier, get into the baby. So you can see how amazingly effective that could be. All other zeolite products are too big to get into the bloodstream. So while they may have some limited effect in the GI tract, they're not going to help where you need it most, and that is in the bloodstream to protect your baby. It's completely free of any toxins. It's been purified so that you're not going to be putting anything in, because in nature, when you find the clinoptilolite, the zeolite that's in natural cellular defense, when you find this mineral, it's already full of toxins. So it has to undergo a process that removes any bacterial growth, fungal byproducts, any heavy metals, volatile organic compounds, anything that could be contaminating the zeolite will be removed through the process that natural cellular defense puts it through, where none of the other products do that. Also, this has been a subject of more than 14 clinical studies versus the others which really have no clinical trials, no clinical studies. And that, to me, is, as a healthcare provider, is absolutely critical. I'm not going to recommend a product that doesn't show a benefit in clinical trials. So getting back here, I want to show you how the natural cellular defense would actually remove mercury from your body. You have binding sites. For example, this is on an adenosine triphosphate molecule, ATP, which is the energy currency of the body. This is what produces energy in the body. And heavy metals like mercury can be on a critical binding site, such as this site on the ATP molecule where magnesium is supposed to be. Remember, mercury tends to displace magnesium, so mercury would typically be found there if you had mercury toxicity. So then you enter with the zeolite cage, which comes and removes the mercury. So now the magnesium can bind on the site. Now you can create energy, and now you can have a more pristine molecule that can do what it was designed to do. The natural cellular defense is the world leader in detoxification. There's been over 3 million bottles of this product sold since it's been out and came out 5 years ago. It's been the subject of 14 studies, many of which are currently waiting publication, and one that has actually been published in the Journal of Nutrition and Dietary Supplements. This was an independent third-party study, not one produced by the company that makes Natural Cellular Defense. It is peer-reviewed and published. This is the only product that is purified, micronized, and activated, and shown in its clinical studies that within the first week of use, the excretion rates of toxins are going to increase 5 to 15 times the normal levels. But in this case, as you're attracting and pulling toxins out of fat cells, out of your bones, and out of your receptor sites, they're not going to get into the bloodstream where they can get into the baby. They're going to be pulled immediately into the zeolite cage and trapped there. And once they're trapped, they're not coming out. The negative charge of this product is a minus 15,000. So if you can imagine the strength of something 15 to 16,000 negative charge attracting a +2 mercury, that mercury, when it's trapped in that cage, it is not coming out, and it is not getting into your baby. So the thing that's so wonderful about this is that it requires no lifestyle change at all, no special diet. You simply just drop some drops on your tongue, put it in some water or in some food since it's absorbed in the stomach. It doesn't have to be put under your tongue or anything special. You can just anything to get it into your stomach where it will be absorbed, travel through the bloodstream, and do what it does, which is primarily remove things from your body that should have never been there in the first place. And because it traps them in the zeolite cage, you're not releasing the toxins into your bloodstream, which is what would happen with the more active forms of detoxification. And so a detox syndrome where you have a lot of fatigue and could potentially be harmful to your baby, this is going to be extremely, extremely rare. So this is very safe to be used for children of all ages and is highly recommended for pregnant mothers and for nursing mothers as well. And in how it removes environmental toxins is those that don't fit inside the zeolite cage form like a toxic Oreo cookie by binding on the outside of the zeolite cage. In this example, this is a benzene ring, and this benzene is going to attract two highly negatively charged, because the benzene ring is positively charged. It's going to attract these two zeolite molecules and form like a toxic Oreo cookie that then will be easily eliminated from the body. I'm going to talk for a minute now about a big concern we all have of autism spectrum disorder. Back when I was having children, we were always concerned that we would have a baby that would have a chromosomal abnormality, such as Down syndrome. Down syndrome is 1 in every 750 babies. The CDC statistics now says 1 in every 100 children, but there are many, many studies, and one that I saw from the Huffington report today shows that it could be potentially as high as 1 in every 38 boys, 1 in every 70 girls. So whatever statistic, 1 in 100 is still way, way too many children who are being affected by this. Now, everyone believes that this is multifactorial. We can't point to any one thing and say this is the cause of the incredible rise in autism that we've had in the last 20 years. But pretty much we know that there must be either a genetic or an epigenetic component. This entire new field called epigenetics has really opened the door to us looking at environmental toxicity and other issues about genetics. When they had the Genome Project and they mapped all the genes, they found that it was really quite surprising that there were not as many genetic combinations and gene combinations as they thought. But then they discovered that every gene has its genetic expression. It has various proteins that it expresses, and these are called the epigenetic expression. And each gene may have thousands of epigenetic expressions. So this has changed things, and what they have discovered is that environmental toxins such as heavy metals can actually affect the expression of the gene, its epigenetic expression. It can alter proteins, and then the proteins don't function correctly, and therefore some of the neurological problems that we're seeing that we think are genetic may actually be epigenetic. They may be expressions that are faulty of the gene and not actually a faulty gene itself. Because of this, it makes it even more complex when we're considering all the genetic factors that are involved in autism spectrum disorder. But there is very, very highly implicated heavy metals and pesticides are highly, highly implicated agents in causing these changes in these proteins, the changes in enzymes, the changes in detoxification mechanisms in the body normally, such as glutathione, and how our body uses antioxidants and other things. For a very credible place that you can go to get information on all of the things I'm talking about here, you can go to the Autism Research Institute, which is ARI.com, and there you can read a lot more about this. But it only makes sense that if you're able to detoxify when you're pregnant and you're able to grab and capture heavy metals and other kinds of toxins that you come in contact with, trap them in the zeolite cage or trap them on the outside, creating that toxic Oreo cookie that I talked about. When you have these kinds of potential, you can see that there may be a tremendous benefit to detoxifying in before, of course, but also even during pregnancy, but only with the use of one of these zeolite products. I just briefly want to mention this vaccination controversy because I really advise parents to go do their due diligence to seek out and inform themselves about vaccinations. Mercury is still being offered in childhood vaccinations and immunizations given to pregnant women, specifically the seasonal influenza vaccine. Also, those who take the RhoGAM shot has mercury in that as the preservative as well. Those that don't have mercury, they've exchanged it for a different preservative, and it's been replaced primarily with aluminum and formaldehyde. So kind of pick your poison here. Activated zeolite will remove mercury, aluminum, and formaldehyde. So therefore, if you are going to take an immunization, you want to be sure that if you're pregnant or nursing or an infant or child, that at the time of the injection you have the zeolite, the activated zeolite, on board so that it can remove these things. And hopefully this will help prevent them from becoming or affecting any neurotoxicity. Detoxification during lactation is an interesting one. Studies have shown that after lactating women fly in commercial aircrafts, they've tested their breast milk and they found that it's tainted with jet fuel and flame retardant chemicals. In another study, they tested the breast milk of women and found an average of 29 industrial chemicals. They received the natural cellular defense for about a week, and at the end of that week, all their milk was pristine. All of the chemicals that they had previously found were gone. They continued on the milk and continued to be tested, and their milk remained pristine. But after discontinuing the product, in 3 days, all of the participants had at least one toxin that had returned to their breast milk. Therefore, detoxification using natural cellular defense during breastfeeding is also highly recommended. I want to briefly mention infertility and toxins. There are exhaustive studies showing the indisputable effect of toxins on infertility. But I want to tell you a very interesting story that I heard at a seminar that I went to on male infertility. The toxicologist was also a urologist, and he told this story. He said, here's a very typical scenario. 6 men decide one day to go to the park to play basketball, to play a little 3-on-3 game. And they stop at the grocery store on the way there, and they pick up, each of them, a bottle of water, a plastic bottle of water. When they get to the park, they place their water bottle at the side where the sun is shining on the plastic. The men now play basketball for about 30 minutes. Then they decide they're thirsty, and they go over and they drink their bottle of water. The bisphenol in the plastic has now leached into the water, and these men will be infertile for the next 4 to 5 days. Now, while I do not want you to use this for birth control, I want you to think about the incredible effects of something as simple as drinking bottled water while you're playing basketball, and how this can affect your fertility. And now I've got some really fun news to tell you about. We all, I think, love chocolate. At least market research says that 90% of people love it, and in fact 50% of people eat it every day. And this is a brand new product that's been on the market about 1 month. It's called Chava Vital Chocolate, and it's an infusion of 70% dark organic chocolate with natural cellular defense, the detox product I've been telling you about. It's high in antioxidants. In fact, it's the highest ever tested by Brunswick Lab, who is the originator of the ORAC score, with a value over 37,000. It's very rich in potassium, magnesium, and healthy form of omega-6 fatty acids. It's dark chocolate, organic cacao, minimal amount of sugar, but the sugar that's in there is from organic, dried organic cane, raw sugar. There's no pesticides. It's kosher. It's vegan. It has only 40 calories. It's even been Rainforest Alliance certified as sustainable agriculture. And every single drop contains 5 drops of natural cellular defense. So you could actually eat 2 pieces of chocolate, one in the morning and one in the evening, during your pregnancy to help detoxify you. How easy is that? And this chocolate actually is very healthy for pregnancy. In numerous studies, it has shown that dark chocolate will actually reduce your risk for hypertension and preeclampsia. All of this is something that probably you may not understand real well, but it's high in phytonutrients, theobromine, which helps you to breathe better. In fact, theobromine products are things that they usually give women to help if they're in premature labor, to help stop them from delivering prematurely. and high in antioxidants. It increases your sensitivity to insulin, reduces your risk of becoming insulin resistant. It has an increase in things that raise these proteins that raise serotonin levels. It's high in magnesium, vitamin B, vitamin E, and I say omega fatty acids. And omega fatty acids have been shown, again, to help your baby have better brain growth. So the translation of how this benefits you and your baby is a healthier heart and blood vessels, helps you to breathe better, it stabilizes your blood sugar, it reduces inflammation in the body, helps you to sleep better, gives you better nutrition, it raises those feel-good chemicals in your brain, and what pregnant woman doesn't need that, and reduces your risk factors for many serious pregnancy complications such as preeclampsia and hypertension. And it's a treat. You're going to love to eat. It's really, really delicious. If you're a smoker, the Chava can also help you to quit smoking, because since it helps to increase that, give you that little serotonin boost that you really miss when you're not smoking, it can actually help you in quitting smoking. And if you want to go to stopsmokingwithchocolate.com, it will tell you all the reasons why eating dark chocolate can help you. It can help you to lose weight before you're pregnant. And you can go to myweightlosschocolate.com, and it can satisfy your craving for just something yummy. And if you want more information, you can go to tchava.com. So I hope that I have proven to you that as we become aware of these things in our environment, we become aware that there are dangers and risks to us, then we can make a decision to make some changes, because we can become very intentional about these changes if we believe that detoxifying your body in pregnancy is not only possible but would be beneficial, that it would be very worth it for you to do it, and it would be very worth it for your baby. You only get one chance to grow your baby's body while it's inside you, and so you want to do the best job you possibly can. And that there's a way to make this detoxification process safe and convenient and something really easy to incorporate into your lifestyle. You can read thousands of testimonies from people who have used the natural cellular defense product that I told you about by going to testimonyinfo.com. And you can read all of the studies that have been done on this product by going to ncdsupport.com. So that's the end of my Toxin Clear Pregnancy lecture, and I wish all of you a very, very healthy and toxin clear pregnancy. If you'd like to contact me, here is my phone number and my email address. Please feel free to contact me if you have any questions. Thank you, David.
All right. Well, thank you very, very much, Vicki. As always, your presentations is thorough and easily understandable with lots of diagrams and pictures. Thank you so much. I think this is very, very important, especially for those who have kids or grandkids who are going through pregnancies or in their infancies, because I tell you what, I mean, you touched on it a lot here, but it's terrible. It's epidemic. It's just reducing our kids' brain capacity, our kids' ability to think and focus on stuff. And of course, TV doesn't help much either. TV, video games, and all those things help to further dumb them down. So I think it's really, really important what you're sharing. All right, questions, folks. Some of you, if you're new here, to go ahead and type in a question in the blue panel to the right of your screen. Vicki, why don't you go ahead and put your information back up so people can copy it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Is it possible to get a replay of this presentation and send it to someone I know that needs it? Well, here's what we do, folks. The live presentations are always free, but if you are if you want to watch a replay, you either have to purchase it or become a member, which of course is really cheap, and you can access it at any time and send it off to people. So if you need it, please contact us and we can help you get it. All right. Other questions? Questions, comments? What is a member? Cost per presentation without membership? Well, I'll answer that, but let's talk about pregnancies some more. Let's talk about toxins. Let's talk about the information that's been mentioned. Okay, a member cost is $20 a month, and if you wanted to just get the single presentation, is $10, and that is a whole hour and a half with videos and slides and all that. So that'll be good. And if you want it to be in, I think MP3s, we could certainly create that, and that would be half of that, $5. Now, Vicki, I know last time you talked about intentional sexuality, and we went into that in detail, and I'm hoping we can get you back to do that presentation again, because there was a lot of information that you shared that's just kept on being. I think the connection there was really, really bad. So, toxins. Could you share a little bit about your experience? I know you're a little careful about that, but tell me about your experience and how why this is such an important thing to you personally.
Well, one of the things that's really important to me personally is when I was first introduced to the Weora company and to Natural Cellular Defense as a product, I was initially attracted because of its antiviral properties, and I really didn't know anything about detoxification. I mean, that is not something they teach us anything about in medical school. I think we learned a little bit about that you could get lead from paint and that there was a medical procedure you could do, that it was very difficult and expensive and dangerous to remove the lead, and but that was really the extent of what I learned in medical school about toxicity. Toxicity in our air, our water, our food preservatives, and its effects on us. I mean, none of that was ever presented at all or ever considered in as part of our differential diagnosis. You know, when a patient comes in, and I see a patient, and you know, I'm in my mind constantly as they're presenting their symptoms, I'm forming a what we call the differential diagnosis. I'm ruling in and ruling out what this might possibly be so that I can create a treatment plan for it. Well, toxicity was something that would have never been on my differential diagnosis list, you know, unless the person came in and said, my child's been eating paint chips. I just would never have thought of it. And now that I understand how pervasive toxicity is in the environment, of course 20 years ago I don't think it was as bad, but when I went to medical school, but still environmental toxicity is just everywhere. It's in the news and the information, and with the, of course, with the oil spill, people are really starting to say, where did that fish come from? You know, I don't know if I want to eat that. I don't know where that came from. And so when I was first introduced to this, like I say, I didn't really even think that much about toxins. I had a friend who had a significant viral problem with monthly reoccurrences and outbreaks of this viral illness, that had tried virtually everything, everything medical. And so I, back in those days, it used to come in a 4-pack. You'd get 4 little bottles of NCD. So I sent one of them to that person, and then I sent one of them to my son, and with my grandson that I showed in the picture, because he had terrible allergies. He had rashes all over his body. I don't have a single picture of him pre-NCD that he doesn't have rashes on his face and on his body. He was on 2 inhalers, daily breathing treatments, and oral medications for his asthma. He'd been hospitalized 5 times. I mean, he had a really severe problem. So I sent a bottle over to him. My husband had a real bad problem with reflux. He used to hurt my feelings every night. No matter what I cooked, he'd be on the couch holding his chest saying, "Oh, get me something for my heartburn." For myself, my father, my grandfather, my father, my aunt, and my grandmother all died of complications of Alzheimer's. And now that I know about toxicity, my grandfather was a dentist. My father, his sister, and my grandmother all worked in the office and helped him mix mercury amalgams. And so I know that there was a high exposure there. My father was a pilot, so I know he was exposed to a lot of different kinds of fuels and toxins there. He loved to be a mechanic and never wore gloves and was always working with his hands in an engine. So I know that his toxicity levels had to be extremely, extremely high. And at the time I was about 58 years old, and I was beginning to develop really what I felt might be early stages of Alzheimer's myself. And I was so frightened by it. I was having to do so many compensation mechanisms so that people wouldn't know that 5 minutes after I met them I didn't remember them. It was really terrifying to me, and so I had actually in October, before I discovered NCD in November, I had actually gone down to the OU Health Science Center and taken a test to see if I had Alzheimer's, and they told me that they believed I was in the early stages. So here I was with these 4 bottles of natural cellular defense. Well, my friend now has been on the NCD for 4 years and has never had another outbreak of her viral problem. My husband, within 3 weeks, his reflux was gone, and he has an episode of heartburn maybe 3 or 4 times a year if he eats really, really, really hot Mexican food. My grandson, within 3 weeks, all the rashes cleared. He no longer takes any medications, and has not had an asthma attack, and he's 6 years old now. He was 2 at the time. And for myself, I about 4 to 5 days on the product, and it was like the brain fog went away. It was like this curtain was lifted, and my memory returned. I had more energy, and I always jokingly say I still can't find my car keys, but I couldn't find my car keys when I was 16, and my brain functioned really well then. But that's just bad habit of not putting things away where I should. But I don't walk in rooms anymore where I don't know where I'm at. I don't walk in and see someone walk out of the room and walk back in and don't remember who they are or why they're there. That is gone, and has been gone now for 4 years. And in the beginning I thought maybe it was placebo, but now I know it can't possibly be. 4 years later, it can't be placebo. So my husband sometimes will be pulling off. He'll say, "Did you remember?" And I'll say, "Yeah." He'll say, "You know, pre-NCD, you would have forgotten that." I go, "I know." So
Wow.
So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Wow.
So when I saw this kind of benefits in people, I began to share this information with other people, and now I am blessed with the ability of hearing stories like this almost on a daily basis. from people who are using the product. And like I say, if you go to testimonyinfos.com, you can read thousands of other stories just like mine.
That is impressive. I mean, that's just priceless, as Mastercard would say. That's priceless. I mean, what would you give, and what would people give just to have things turn around the way yours did?
Right. What would you give to have your future back?
My goodness.
I have my future back. My future was gone, and my future is back.
Now, I didn't know.
And I totally believe it was because of the toxicity in my body.
But
probably mercury.
But apparently,
because I had a lot of fillings.
But apparently, it runs in the genes, because you mentioned, I didn't know this side of the story before, but
it may be genetic, but it may be epigenetic. It may be an expression of the gene that when you remove the heavy metal, the offending heavy metal or toxin, then the gene may begin to produce the correct proteins.
Right.
And epigenetic changes can be changed, while genetic changes can't. Epigenetic changes can.
Yeah, but still, even if it's in the genes, there are things that the body can do to compensate, to inhibit its expression or cover up for it, and so that even if it's there in the genes, it doesn't have to be expressed. And I think that's. I think that, like you said, there might be a play of both. But whatever the case is, I mean, that's a tremendous story. And you still find people who will say that, well, if it's in your genes, you're going to get it. It doesn't matter what you do. But I just don't think that's true.
I don't believe it's true either. I've seen too many miracles in the past 4 years to believe it's true.
Well, thank you for sharing. I know this isn't something you want to be. I mean, you don't like to bring your own personal stories into it, but I think this will help people as well. All right.
Well, I hope so.
Absolutely. And it looks like everybody stayed on except for one or two. So yeah, I mean, your presentation must have been very intriguing.
I mean, one thing that I want to make clear, and that is, people go, well, now wait a minute, you just told a story about asthma, about heartburn, about a viral problem, and about memory issues. How can one thing help all of that? Is because a toxin-clear body becomes capable of miracles. When you remove the things that are making your body not function, and a lot of times you don't know what these toxins are doing in your body until they're gone.
I think you've touched on a very important aspect, which is really the centerpiece, the foundation of everything that we do, and that is about your body's potential to heal itself, your body's potential to.
That's right.
To give you the best life, the best health. If right. And only if you give your body what it needs and you protect it from what it doesn't need, like toxins.
Right. And there are many excellent products out there now, and and as people are eating more healthy, eating more live and whole foods, and changing their diets, exercising, doing all these things that I talked about, reducing their stress, taking nutritional supplements that are made of whole food that really help meet nutritional deficiencies. As they're doing these things, they're setting their body up to give it the best possible chance to heal itself.
Absolutely. And a couple of questions came in saying, okay, where do we get the NCD from? And there's one site you can go to called ncdworks.com, or you can contact Vicki as well. NCD and the letters N, C, and D, works, as in WORKS.com, or you can contact Vicki as well. Okay, and they will take care of it. All right, well, this kind of covers it all for tonight. This, again, has been a tremendous presentation. Thank you again, Vicki.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. I love doing this. And I hope that I changed the hearts and minds of some of the people out there to really look at a whole new way of thinking about their environment and thinking about how they can bring health and wellness to themselves and to their families, and even before they're born, to their preborn children.
Absolutely. Well said. Well said. All right. Well, we'll wrap it up here, and folks, have a great night. Okay. Thank you again, Vicki. Good night. God bless.
Good night.